I used to work at the local morgue, bringing corpses in for embalming and preparation to be sent to whichever funeral home they were going to. It was a morbid task, as you can imagine. People say that working with the deceased for long periods of time can have a negative psychological effect on you. I do believe this is true. However, one's mind also becomes used to the task and accepts that this is what you're being paid to do, and you just have to get it done. My colleague, James, was the same. Going through the same mundane, morbid routines was made a little more bearable with him around. We could crack a joke and laugh, distract ourselves with horsing around or just talking about random trash with no real meaning. We even used to stash beers in one of the freezers during the late shift, when it was just the two of us, and would crack one open here and there in between moving bodies around, tagging them and storing them, and signing them in on the registry. One night in particular, we were bringing in a man who was identified as Mr. Anton Sullivan. He had been involved in a car accident and had died at the scene of a severe head injury. We pulled our van up at the entrance, and James jumped out and unlocked the back doors while I locked up the front of the van. We then lifted the stretcher with the black body bag on it out of the van, setting up the wheels as we did so. I took the keys from James and locked the door while he rolled the stretcher inside into the elevator. I'd just finished locking up when I jumped a foot in the air due to my phone ringing suddenly in my pocket. My wife always called to say goodnight when I was doing the late shift. I took the call and spoke to her while walking towards the building. When I was inside, I saw the elevator doors were closed and the number above the elevator read B. James had gone down ahead of me, so I recalled the elevator and finished the call with my wife while I waited. The elevator reached me just as I put my phone in my pocket. The all too familiar ding sounded and the doors opened. I was a little surprised to find the stretcher standing there in the elevator, with James nowhere in sight. He must have been distracted when he got out of the elevator and the doors closed before he could get the stretcher out. Upon reaching the bottom floor, the doors opened and almost immediately, the lights went out. Just pitch black. My heart actually ceased for a moment when they did, as I was suddenly plunged into suffocating darkness and silence. The floor was underground, and so it was only natural for it to be pitch black without the lights on. I turned on the flashlight on my phone so I could see and called out to James. There was no reply. I called out for him again and there was still nothing, so I decided to call his cell. It rang a few times and then the call was picked up. "James?" I said on the phone. He didn't say anything. I couldn't hear any sounds on the other end. No breathing, no sound from the cooling system, which you could always hear. That was no surprise, seeing as the power's out. I should still have heard something. Anything. There was nothing. "James, come on man. If you're messing around, just quit, okay? We agreed we wouldn't mess around on the job like this. It isn't funny," I said sternly.
Mark.
I jumped at the sudden sound of my name. It was so garbled that I almost didn't catch it, but it was definitely my name. "James? Where are you now? Are you looking for the generator?" There was a moment of scratchy static in my ear, pretty loud, and I had to move the phone away from my ear.
"Free room,"
said James, his voice washed out by horrible static. "What? I can't hear you, you're breaking up," I said. "Freezer room?" I asked. This was answered with 3 beeps, and then silence as the call died. "Damn it," I said, to no one in particular. I used a light on my phone to see down the hallway and made my way to the freezer room to see why James was there, not checking to see why the backup generator hadn't kicked in. In the freezer room, I found myself in the grip of sudden creeping fear. Every door of every one of the freezers were wide open. I stood stock still at the doorway, too afraid to move any further, It was so dark all around me, and I was suddenly afraid of everywhere around me that I couldn't see. And even more afraid of where I could see. I wanted to call out to James, but something made me too scared to do so. I didn't want to be heard. I don't know how I hadn't immediately noticed it, but I became aware of the faint sound of shuffling coming from somewhere further into the room, where my measly cell phone flashlight couldn't reach. The shuffling sound of footsteps. Footsteps from more than one pair of feet. I was paralysed with pure terror, unable to believe my senses. I so badly wanted to run, screaming, but I couldn't. That was until I saw movement, somewhere just out of the reach of my light source. I was about to stammer out James's name when I saw another movement, off to the left of the one I'd already seen. And another. That was when I screamed. I just screamed and turned around, running back to the elevator, filled with horror and struggling to process what was happening. What was happening was impossible, but it was happening, somehow. The human mind struggles to comprehend such things. Its one focus is getting out and getting as far away as possible. You can't think of anything else at the time. I reached the elevator and shouted in dismay when I realised the control panel was dead because the backup power hadn't activated for some reason. I can never put into words the absolute soul-crushing terror I experienced when I turned back to the door and the light from my phone illuminated a shape in the corner of the elevator, literally 2 steps away from me. The shape of a black body bag, standing upright and somehow quivering. The last thing I remember is hearing a horrific gurgling noise from inside the bag, followed by a disgusting fleshy squelching sound and a liquid splattering, like some form of liquid hitting the floor. After that, I was gone. I don't think my mind could take it anymore. I woke up in hospital 2 days later, and when I was okay to talk, the police came and explained everything to me. Or, they tried their best to explain. According to them, I'd been found lying outside the elevator, having fainted due to extreme stress. They had found James inside the body bag in the elevator, dead. They had been deeply disturbed by the fact that James and all his internal organs had somehow been separated. The body bag that he was in was saturated with almost all of his blood, his organs swimming in the wave of blood that seeped out when they opened the bag. The corpses that had been stored in the morgue were all gone without a trace. The day crew had found us when they came to relieve James and I from night duty and immediately called the police. The officers at the scene were heavily traumatized at the sight after the body bag had been opened by one of the paramedics that also responded. All police and emergency personnel were issued extensive counselling, and the same counselling was suggested to me. I accepted it, but I found it to be a waste of time. It's been years now. I've decided I need to at least write about this. I'll still never forget it. Whatever happened to James that night will forever be a mystery. I'll never understand. I accept that. In a way, I'm kind of okay with it. Maybe I'm better off not knowing. Maybe we all are. Hey guys, and thank you for listening to the latest in my CreepyPasta series. Now, links to the story, the music and the image will be in the description down below. If you like this story, then don't forget to hit the like button, and if you really liked it, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. Now, links to the social media and the Discord will also be in the description, so if you want to come over and chat with me and like-minded people like yourself, then join us. Let me know how you like it. Anyway, enough of me rambling. Thank you for listening once again, and take care.